report, the Uniform Crime Report put out in September by the FBI, saying that killings in the United States jumped nearly 30% last year. The FBI said the murder and manslaughter rate rose 29.4%. That was the largest one-year increase since the federal government began compiling that data back in the 1960s. Donald, in your view, what is the attributable cause to these rise in homicides, in killings? The White House says it potentially is because of COVID, because of the pandemic.
Okay, so I'm going to say that's ridiculous. I'm sorry to say, but I heard her say that they're monitoring the situation as well. The problem is there's a lack of leadership. We want to blame the police when there's brutality, and then we want to blame the police when crime's not being solved. Well, proactive policing is out the window. It's history now because of the lack of leadership. Police departments combat crime. They're the biggest piece of the puzzle, but there's a lot of other pieces, such as the DA's office, such as the government, that has to take care of people when they become addicted to drugs because of the decriminalization of drugs. They thought that it was a very humane thing, and possibly it is, to decriminalize drugs, but you just can't let people alone to their own devices. They're out there on the streets doing what they want, and there's no consequences, and we're not doing anything to help those people attack their problems. And, I think that with respect to cops, think about this. If you were young, 21 years of age, and you wanted to be a police officer, how proactive would you be these days? Would you get into a car and go chase after people and get out of there and do what we used to think was great police work? Probably not. I mean, it's very hazardous. It's always been a hazardous job, but it's really hazardous now because of the pressure that's on police. So police are kind of taking a back seat now.
Donald, I just want to cite some more from this Uniform Crime Report put out back in September from the FBI. They say there were 21,500 murders last year, a total not seen since the mid-90s, but the murder rate in 2020 was about 6.5 per 100,000 people. And so that's about 40% below what it was in the 80s and the 90s. But we have been seeing in certain cities, major U.S. cities, I'm talking about Philadelphia and Houston and Washington, D.C. and New York, where they are seeing levels comparable to the 1990s. What do leaders in those cities need to do to stem the violent crime?
Well, they need to stop playing with the statistics. What they're saying, a lot of these people, is, well, it's just violent crimes that are increasing. Crime overall isn't. But, violent crime is the canary in the coal mine, right? I mean, those are the things that we should be concentrating on and not just assuming that it's just a brief problem. Violent crime affects all of us eventually, and it trickles down. So what our leaders need to do is start supporting law enforcement again. They're not doing that anymore, and it's just as simple as that as far as the police are concerned. They're not listening to us anymore.
Donald, do you think police departments need to commit more and more? I know we've been hearing a lot that they are stretched with some of these, labor shortages affecting police departments. Some major cities have objected to a lot of the vaccine mandates put in place for municipal workers. And so, some of that has led to police officers, not being able to work fully on the job because they object or what have you. So there are a number of different factors, but what can police departments do internally?
Well, internally, they've got to keep the morale up and let their people know that, they've signed up for good reasons. And that's to protect people, to serve others, and to do God's work, and God's work is never easy, but don't take unreasonable risks, and that's the difference of the old policing in today right now is a cop really would be insane to do things like chase after people now who are holding guns, to do a lot of the things that get cops in trouble now that are kind of innocent, but they're being criminally prosecuted in some of the cases. Some of the cases it's deserved, but I know if I were back on the streets right now, I'd be a different type of guy than I was back then. I think most of us would say that.
Let's talk about what some of the strategies that certain prosecutors have been taking, certain district attorneys have been taking to be, progressive prosecutors, reforming the bail system, choosing not to prosecute some of these low-level crimes. I'm talking about especially with these smash and grabs, Title 47 in California, or Prop 47 rather. Do you think that is a major driver of this? You have, decisions being made at the highest level that are choosing, not to prosecute some cases or crimes, even though they are on the books as crimes.
Absolutely. I mean, criminals have risk and reward just like the rest of us do, and if there's not going to be any consequences, and they know there's no consequences for this stuff, they're just going to keep doing it and doing it even in greater masses of people and stuff. It's scary. I mean, I live out here and I see these people coming into communities and just breaking into stores, and some of these stores close for good after that. Nobody could sustain that forever. And there's just no real attempt to stop it.
Going forward, the federal government at the Department of Justice, that level, they have kind of initiated these task force strike zones. I think it's about 5 cities, Chicago, Washington, D.C., possibly Miami, I think is one of them. At the federal level, what can they do that can, they oversee a little more of these police departments. We know that from the consent decree back in the Obama administration. So what can they do at the federal government level?
Well, one thing that I saw during the 90s that I think really helped curtail crime is they gave money to police departments to have better equipment, facilities, and hire additional people. You need more people on the streets than what the local communities can really offer. Here in LA, they've always been, in my opinion, underfunded for the amount of police officers. So the federal government should incentivize and also start, again, being part of the morale building of police officers. Let's start liking our cops again. Yeah, there's been problems. Yes, there's been some horrible incidents that have happened, but we have to be mature about this. To condemn a profession because of what we're seeing now with cameras and stuff is just ruining the whole system. So the federal government could take a part in that as well, in my opinion.
I want to talk about guns on the street because we have data to suggest that during the pandemic, the rise in gun sales was a data point that was observed. There was a marked rise in the percentage of Americans going out and buying guns. Do you think there are too many guns on the street?
Look, that's a problem that's never going to go away.
Okay.
Too many guns on the streets. There's too many bad guys on the streets that are holding guns. I'm not, a extremist in any direction, but that's not the problem. It's not the guns. It's the fact that we're not going after the bad guys, in my opinion. And it's just from an old cop, my perspective is that you could clean up the city, but you've got to do it in the right way. And it's not by, putting labels on guns.
Okay, and just going forward, Donald, when we're looking, because there will be statistics now that we are at the end of the year, and if this trajectory keeps going on the way it is, do you see a reprieve in sight at all from, many of these measurements that we have been seeing, many of the data collected that sees crime keep going up? Do you think there's a reprieve in sight for that?
I sure hope so. I'm old enough to remember the 70s and how crime just spiked back then, and we had a change in culture, and the community started getting behind going after the bad people and stuff. So it's that old pendulum swinging, to the, in the direction it should go. I hope that happens, because God forbid that everything we gained from the 80s and the 90s has been lost, and we return to those horrible times where you couldn't walk downtown without feeling like you're going to get attacked.
All right, Donald Schweitzer, we appreciate your time, and we'll be talking to you again as we continue to follow this story.
Thank you.